بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Welcome everybody to the Safina Society Nothing But Facts live stream on a cold day here in the great state of New Jersey. It's a Tuesday. It's sunny out. It is, there's still snow on the ground. It's about 32 degrees. It's getting cold. So if we get any precipitation, it should be snow, which is what we hope for. And today we are joined by a guest that will be giving sharh, commentary on the Avoid Disaster Diet, ADD, for all those who have attention deficit disorder for our health, right? The acronym lines up. Avoid disaster diet. But he's gone beyond that, and he's going to tell us even better things beyond that, especially in the wintertime as people's body get achy and stiff and all that stuff. But the physical is connected with our spiritual. If you're physically messed up, you're not going to be able to think straight. And the Prophet ﷺ said, Al-aqlu salim fil jism salim. Sound intellect is in a sound body. So if the body's out of whack, our thinking could be out of whack. All right, let's introduce onto our live stream our what do they call it in the news? They call it somebody who's the correspondent, our fitness correspondent, Ahmad Fahmy. Bring him on. Bismillah. Founder of the 114 Challenge. Welcome back to Nothing But Facts.
Thank you, Sheikh Shadee. I'm happy to be back. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. And first of all, you should see what I'm looking at, a proper podcaster's mic, podcaster's light. He's a proper podcaster right now. And of course, was a 3/4 zip fitness jacket, which is, that's
I have to stay on brand. I have to stay
on brand. Got to stay on brand.
So,
you know those fitness types who are always walking around in fitness clothes? Right? They call it athleisure because now the sweats are $60. You know, there are sweats $60, athleisure, they call it now. But let's get to the fitness thing, that the health thing, that our day and age lifestyle is so terrible, right? Everything has to be artificially done. So even breathing, artificially, we have to learn how to breathe again properly. Back in the day, you did that walking. You walked so much. And for sure, at some point, you walked uphill. Most likely, people walked uphill for about 5 minutes every single day of their life. They never had any heart or breathing issues just because of that practice. We don't have any of that today. Our joints are terrible because back in those days, they didn't have chairs the way we have chairs. A lot of things. The Avoid Disaster Diet begins with hydration. Begins with water. So give us your commentary on the miracle of water and hydration.
So that's a great place to start. Hydration is it's one of those bedrock things, you know. Mm-hmm. It's most people are chronically hydrated. I struggle with having enough water. Mm-hmm. But one of the reasons is, even if you drink a lot of water, if the water is not mineralized and you're drinking caffeine, most likely you're going to urinate it all out, or urinate a lot of it out. So just drinking 1.5 liters of water a lot of times is not enough when it's coupled with caffeine and just straight up water. The high likelihood is you're going to drink a lot of water and just flush it out.
So how much caffeine negates how much water? How do we do it? Cup by cup or no?
I don't think it's that much, but caffeine's a diuretic, and that's why you want to avoid drinking coffee right when you wake up.
You dehydrate your body.
You want to drink a large glass of water and put a little bit of salt in the water.
So those little packets for, what are they called? Those little electrolyte packets.
Yeah, the electrolyte element, and those are great, but something about the artificial sugar and things like that, probably not the best way to start the day. All you have to do is drink a tall glass of water and just put a sprinkling of any sea salt, Celtic salt, if you want to get fancy.
So like those little electrolyte packets. Now, how does that help retain the water in your body, though?
It just keeps the balance within the body. If you just drink just a glass of water, you will retain some, but you'll flush out a lot
Yeah.
of it. So the sodium helps you actually retain the water. And
So
so, but
sodium
yeah, I mean,
helps
so
keep the
far
water in the body.
keeps the water, and you don't have to get fancy with the element and all the expensive stuff. And yeah, just put some salt in the water and drink it first thing in the morning.
Okay,
We're off to a good start with this ADD diet. Hydration is the base. It's
this is the
good.
number one thing. And
Yep.
so caffeine, though, we have to realize we're probably eliminating our first thing of water if you're
Yeah, I mean,
taking
caffeine's
caffeine.
is a diuretic.
It's diuretic, yeah.
Yeah, it's a
You're working
diuretic,
against
and
yourself.
you're working against yourself. It's that's one of the issues with caffeine. So you could be drinking a lot of water, having bottles of water, but drinking lots of coffee and then just flushing out that water.
It's not benefiting
And
you, yeah.
and the thing you want to monitor is your urine color and things like that. But yeah, 100%. You just
Yeah.
need to be aware. And if you're drinking a lot of coffee, you need to supplement it with more water. Again, mineralize the water if you can.
Okay, so mineralize water with electrolytes or even
Or
just
it's
some salt.
just salt, just some salt. You don't have to get
Little bit of salt.
fancy.
Okay.
Just a little bit of salt, yeah.
IG.
And
Okay.
try not to have the coffee right when you wake up. Like wait
Good.
half an hour.
The when I was getting headaches, a lot of people get this headaches, and everyone tries to find an answer. So medicine is an answer, coffee is an answer, but then ultimately I found an answer, which was basically these are just dehydration headaches.
Yeah,
Not all headaches are the same, so this will not work for everybody. But the solution I found was so insane, and I loved it because it was so elegant. It was called Japanese water therapy or treatment or
Okay.
something like that. And I loved it because it was just so elegant. You know how the Japanese, they do things a very minimalistic way.
Yeah.
So I thought, this is great. This is like nature's number one element, which is water. It's got to have so many cures, or be the cure for so many things. And they do. They have it as a cure for so many things. It's insane. But their drinking of water has a technique, which I don't need to follow anymore, but they have techniques such as you have to have it on empty stomach. You have to have it first thing in the morning, and you have to have this ridiculous amount, which is like 4 cups immediately on an empty stomach. Then you need to do it again in the middle of the day. Then you do it again at night.
Yeah,
It's insane, but it was so
yeah.
much. But it solved my problem within 2 weeks. I wasn't getting headaches anymore.
You just, I'll say two things about water. First is that I assume most children are also chronically dehydrated. Most kids are not drinking enough water.
Yeah. Although they're
And
walking around with the bottles, I think they care more about having the bottles than actually drinking
well,
the water.
well,
Stanley
yeah,
cups and all that.
yeah. The Stanley Cups. Actually, all those Stanley Cups are kind of. I don't know. They're. I don't know what they're meant to symbolize, but the one good thing is it's always constantly reminding people to drink water. So I guess
Yeah.
there's value in that. So yeah.
Okay,
So
so
okay. So that's
so
good
that
so far. What's
so
the next
so far
thing?
so good. The second thing involves the what you see in the masajid when we go into sujood and ruku'. Actually, funny because the guys are moaning. The old guys are moaning as they get into ruku' and sujood and stuff, and that has to do with their flexibility. So a lot of people suffer back pain, and it bothers their life. It alters their life, and the
Yeah.
back pain it compounds.
Yeah. Yeah.
So one muscle stiffens up, you therefore start moving another muscle to compensate. Then that muscle's overused, and it all has to do with stretching. So this is again something that it's a solution because I went through it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had this pain that just would never go away until I discovered one such stretch. So stretching in general has been told to me is so critical, and that it's not a lot that's needed. It's like a few minutes consistently, morning and evening. Tell us the secrets of stretching out that body, and if the fascia is a real thing or is it a mystical thing.
Look, a lot. Okay, but about fascia and mystical and bro science, like I believe in echi science, right? Which is my form of bro science. So of course I'm not a doctor
Yeah.
like you. A lot of this stuff is just from me hurting myself as I'm nearing 50 and fixing myself and learning, etc. I'm a very big believer in the fascia.
Yeah.
And
So it is something real.
I believe it's very real. And
Explain to the audience what it is exactly.
so basically, if you ever, get a piece of meat, there's like a coating outside of the meat that you have to remove, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the fascia is almost like this container, this very thin, think of it like a very clear bag that's containing your body, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens is the fascia can actually compress and compresses your body,
Mm.
right? And by the way, dehydration is supposedly tied into this as well. And so you can actually, and you'll see people getting compressed with time, right?
Yeah.
As sort of and it causes lots of issues in the lower back, especially the spine, and things like that. So, the fascia is real, and I mean it is real, and the impacts on, especially as you're sitting down. Imagine you're sitting down, it's getting compressed for a long period of time. You get up, you're like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
So, but in terms of stretching, I stretch in two. Okay, I do three types of stretches a day,
Mm.
and maybe it's a bit excessive, but I'll tell you what I do, and then we can bring it back. I'll slightly stretch before I work out, and I'll that's a certain type of like dynamic stretching. So I've loosened up before I go for a run so I don't get injured. I stretch briefly after the run or after the workout, and that's not dynamic stretching, that's more long. And I'll do some other things with that, like foam rolling. But then I have a very quick 9-minute whole body routine I do that
Mm.
stretches out the whole body. And I'll do that during the day or whenever. Or sometimes I'll do that in a sauna. And there I target a bunch of things, like especially my hip flexors. My hip flexors are probably the biggest
That's what I
cause of back
said.
pain.
That's what I
Yeah,
said on the live stream. That hip
hip
flexor
flexor.
is an
It's all about the hip
underrated
flexor.
thing, and it
It's
helps your
everything.
back. Yeah.
I mean, think about it. I'm sitting down, right? So my like you said, the Sahaba, they weren't sitting down all day, and even if they were
It's
sitting, they
true.
were not sitting in a 9-degree position. Like so,
Mm-hmm.
my hips are like this, and so the hip flexor basically gets shortened, and so I've had bad back pain since I was 22,
Mm.
and the root cause of that is compression, and my nerves get compressed, and so for me, loosening the hip flexors is really important. The shoulders, um, elements of my neck. Because if you have any instability, like so you're gonna do the half marathon inshallah this year,
Yeah.
and
Inshallah.
so as you start running more and more, what happens is if something's out of whack, slightly out of whack, as you keep on running, you're gonna aggravate something,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's the third stretch I'll do in the day, which is my whole body fairly quickly.
Yeah. So I remember why I got interested in this is that when I was traveling and learning and meeting different shiuch, the group that I was with was associated, or the people, the converts who got into them were like semi-hippie converts that were into like gardening and fitness and all that stuff. They were into that stuff
Yeah.
before Islam. When they entered Islam, they kept that up. But I found that in old age, because now they're in old age. When I saw them, they're in old age. They were like way better in
Yeah, yeah.
shape, and not that in mood, right? In mood, and you can't separate between these two. You make fun of their hippie lifestyle and their nature-loving lifestyle and stuff, but you can't separate the fact that their mood was like always 10 out of 10, right? And it was partly due to taking care of their physical aspect too.
Yeah, I mean, physical, taking care of yourself, it's just like finances.
Yeah,
The person that's well off in their 60s has been putting money in their 401k in their 20s and 30s
yeah,
and doing the right
yeah,
thing. And same exact thing with your body.
yeah,
It's what you do in your 20s and 30s and 40s that
yeah.
sustains you in your 50s, 60s, if Allah gives you that life.
So that was the second one, is stretching. Now the third one, also from personal experience. I went through a phase where I was copying and documenting Tafsir of Surah Al-Baqarah.
Wow.
So I had a laptop in which I asked a friend, I don't know if you can even do this today, but he did it for me, to physically remove the thing that connects to the internet, right? So this was an internet-free laptop. And then downloaded onto that was a software back in the old day, which doesn't even exist anymore, that has a whole bunch of tafsir. All night, I would be on this software. And it was just going from, one thing to the, it was an amazing software. Let's say they gave you, it was a hadith transmission. You highlight the name of the transmitter, click, it'll take you to the biography. It's like an amazing book. So everyone would go to sleep around between like 10, whatever. I would make my cup of coffee at that time. I would make it. Dark cup of coffee. And I'd be up until 3 straight. Right? So over time, though, this actually had a very adverse effect. Until I reached a point that it was like a severely adverse effect, and I didn't know it was a problem. Because when you're so focused on something, you're messing something else up. You don't even realize you're totally destroying something else. And that's what happens to people who get hyper-focused on things, is that they're totally destroying something else without even being aware. And so that thing becomes a monster that you have to deal with. So it threw my health completely off whack. And ultimately, I went to my physician, and he's a Muslim guy, and he's like a wizard. He's really good. And he basically said, tell me everything about your day. And he said, okay, this is not acceptable. I said, I want you to do something tonight. He said, whatever you do, get in bed at 9 o'clock. I was like, this is insane. You get bed at 3, right? 9 is insane. It's like an insane. But I did it as an experiment. And I'm telling you, no, that's not practical, but he said basically you should hover around 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And that really changed everything. So the avoid disaster diet, part 3, is sleep. And the importance of sleeping right. It's not the amount, it's the time when you actually go to sleep, he said. The doctor told me your healing starts at 9 p.m. until 1 a.m.
Yeah.
If you pass 1 a.m., you're not healing. You're just, I don't know what it is. So talk to us about that.
So I would actually make this number 1 in the avoid disaster diet.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is definitely number 1 before hydration, before stretching. Is sleep. It is the bedrock of everything. How you feel, how you recover. I hear sometimes, or I felt sometimes, it's like, today's just not working out. Today, I want this day to end. It's just not. And that's a day in your life that you want to end.
It's
that's
gone.
Just
It's
and you want it to be gone. I just need a reset tomorrow. And people are in a bad mood, and I think I heard the psychiatrist say this, and this might be Akhi science again, but 80% of depression can be solved by a good night's sleep.
Yeah,
and so to me, that begins and ends with sleep, and everything you said is absolutely right. So you have your deep sleep in the beginning of the night, and that's where your body physically recovers, and then you have your REM sleep later in the night, and that's when your mind actually absorbs the data and so it's your body and your mind at different times. If you miss the beginning of the cycle, it's not like the whole thing pushes. And so you need the sleep, you need the consistency. I love my nighttime hanging out and stuff like that, but I can't sacrifice the next day.
Yeah,
it's just not worth it for me. And so I'm so extreme about this that I eat early. Like I won't do things. Like the reason I wasn't going to do this podcast, because this is my bedtime, right? This is 10 p.m. in Turkey. This is the time I'm sleeping, but I love you. So, but in general, I do everything that you'd hear about on the internet. I turn off my laptop an hour before. I only read. I eat only a couple of hours before. There's no caffeine past 1 p.m. Anything that may impact the quality of my sleep, I try to avoid. I keep my room cold. And
that's better?
Oh yeah, that's much better.
Well, I didn't know that.
Now it might cause some marital issues, wanting but you've heard the concept of sleep divorce. I don't know if you've heard the
No,
concept of
what's
sleep
that all?
divorce.
They just because of their sleep routines?
Yeah, just because of their sleep routines, people sleep in separate rooms. I'm not advocating this,
Yeah,
but that's how important it is that some people like declare sleep divorce. And
that's crazy.
yeah, and so like the wife will sleep in one room, the husband will sleep in another one. Again, I'm not advocating that, but
That's
it
a
is a thing.
disaster.
It is, and so yeah, a cooler temperature, uh, having the same set time every day. And to me, the sacrifices required to get a good night's sleep are worth having a good day the following day.
Oh, it is.
Feeling
It
it's
is.
just worth it. Like
Yeah.
waking up feeling like ugh and
Yeah.
snapping at people and feeling unrested and that one of the ways you know you had good sleep if you track it with a Whoop band, it's not just the quality of the sleep but the HRV. Your HRV if is a marker that will tell you effectively how stressed you are and how well you're rested and how ready you are for the day.
How does it do that? And what does HRV stand for?
So basically, what HRV is so you have your heartbeat, right? And so your heart beats, and then there's a time, usually measured in milliseconds, between each heartbeat. And so the higher the time is, to answer your first question, it's heart rate variability, right?
Mm.
So imagine there is a beat, time. The higher the variability, so imagine like it's X milliseconds, but it's more milliseconds here, it's more milliseconds. The higher the variability between the heartbeats, the better. The lower the
Mm.
time between the heartbeats, it's really fascinating. It's all about the negative space. The lower the time, that means the lower HRV, the more your sympathetic nervous system is activated, the more stressed you are. The
So
more
that means faster heartbeat, slower heartbeat,
no,
or
it's
the
not
variation too.
the variation of time between the heartbeat. So boom,
Mm.
boom, and then there's a pause. Boom, boom, there's a pause. The variation of time between the heartbeats is what's called the heart rate variability. And so if you're an elite athlete, they're constantly monitoring this thing because they'll wake
Yeah.
up to look at their HRV score and they'll say, well, I have a relatively low HRV. That means I'm not going to perform well today. Or
Yeah.
most likely I'm not going to perform well. And so, what are the two inputs into a bad HRV that tells you you're going to have most likely a bad day? Bad sleep and stress.
Mm.
Lots of stress. And so that's a marker I follow because I don't know if you ever heard the quote, "What you measure, you manage."
Yes. What
And
you
so
measure, you can
you
grow. What it
manage.
you manage? Yeah.
You
If you
you
can
manage
measure
what
it,
you
you can.
measure. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so, I check my HRV in the morning, and it'll tell me sort of where I am in terms of rest and recovery and how I'm going to be that day.
So I remember watching Khabib in when he beat Justin Gaethje, I think his name was
Gaethje.
Gaethje. He
Yeah,
talked about this actually. He said that Gaethje. He said I looked at it, just looking at him, I could tell he was sleep deprived,
yeah,
and his sleep was off. He could tell by just looking at him, and then he told him that he made a mistake in traveling from I guess the U.S. to Dubai or the Emirates where they had this fight, Dubai or Abu Dhabi, that he said you traveled a week in advance. You should have traveled 2 weeks in advance
exactly.
to totally set yourself right. And he said like he could tell the guy was slow, a little bit slower. Everything was just slightly enough to give him the edge over him. So it's crazy how athletes, they judge that. Now I want to make clear when you say the variability, that means let's say X milliseconds between one beat and the first beat and the second, X plus one between the second
Yeah,
and the third,
that's good.
X plus half, right? So it's
Yeah,
different each.
yeah. It's gonna be different, but the greater the variability,
Yeah.
like the better.
So that
That
means
that
a very
means
slow heartbeat is better.
well, it's not just a slow heartbeat. I mean usually people look at their heartbeat and say, okay, I'm doing I'm 48 beats per minute. Now
Yeah.
my resting heart rate is 48 beats per minute. Therefore, which is very, very good. And that's what I used to track. I used to track usually my VO2 max,
Okay.
and my resting heart rate. And as long as it was under 50, I'm in a good place. I never tracked the time between the beats, which is the HRV, which is a really interesting
Time
measure.
between the beats. More important than just, okay.
Well, it is important. I mean, it'll
Yeah.
tell you. It'll tell you not just your cardiovascular fitness, but it'll tell you sort of your total stress and how basically the state of your parasympathetic nervous system.
Yeah.
But
Tell
there
me
are ways, but there are ways. Let's just say you wake up feeling terrible. You can't go back in time and fix your sleep,
can't
but
do
there
it.
are things you can do during the day to improve even your HRV and improve your readiness. Like there are things you can do. You don't just have
Yeah.
to like declare bankruptcy on that day.
Well, sometimes, honestly, the solution is that, like, early part of the middle of the day, just go somewhere and put anything over your eyes for 20 minutes. Even if you don't fall asleep, sometimes that fixes you
Yeah,
that bad day.
that nap is amazing.
Yeah. Tell me about
But
this.
again, you can't do that. I'm sorry, but you can't
Yeah.
do that if you're hyper caffeinated though. That's
That's
one
the
of the problems.
problem. You got to
That's
pick
the
one
problem.
at that point. Yeah.
If you're hyper caffeinated, that's why one hack
Hmm.
is replacing a lot of the coffee with green tea.
Okay. Well, green tea is
That's
caffeinated.
it's caffeinated, but also has something called L-theanine, and so caffeine gives you like this, that jittery feeling.
Yeah, yeah.
L-theanine is like a much more like a smooth, calm, relaxing, rather than this like jittery.
Okay.
You
How
know,
about regular black tea? What's that?
I don't think that has L-theanine,
Okay.
but again, I have to check my Akhi science
An-
manual.
Another hack is half caffeine, which is
Yeah,
mixing your caffeine with decaf.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, all right. You mentioned measuring this thing with a Whoop band. What is that all about?
So there's a ton of devices that you can use. A Garmin watch, a Whoop band, an Aura ring. They're just measurables. But for HRV, I have it's right here.
It's
This
a. Where do you put that?
on my chest.
Oh, you're not
So,
playing.
but so
Above the
because
clothes?
no, it goes under the clothes, but don't want to cause any fitna here. But
So I can't. You
but
can't do it with a. You have to get that. It's not in. It can be done with a watch, right?
yeah, you can do with the Apple. I mean, this is just the most accurate because I use this for a lot of my run training and some bike training. But yeah, you could do it. You could check it with your Apple Watch, a Garmin watch, a Whoop band, an Aura ring, and
Interesting.
I'll,
Okay.
yeah, they're all. I mean, Aura is generally better for sleep,
Yeah.
and Whoop is better for overall fitness activity. You'll see a lot of the fitness bros wearing a Whoop.
Or as a company.
Or as a company, it's a ring. It just looks like a ring,
Okay.
and they focus mostly on sleep.
I got you.
But they have everything else, whereas Whoop is focusing on fitness, and the Apple Watch has a lot of these things. And so does the Garmin.
It's an Aura ring that tracks to your phone. Then.
Yeah. It just looks like a normal ring,
Yeah.
and it just connects to your phone, and it'll tell you a
Give
lot
you
of the
your
stats I
update.
talked. Yeah, your HRV, your sleep, your deep, and it's really, and I have gifted these Aura rings to a lot of people,
Yeah.
and once they start, it's subhanAllah, you manage what you measure,
Yep.
right? And once you see the quality of your sleep, like I have a friend of mine says I can't upset Aura tonight because in the morning she's gonna give me a bad score.
Wow.
I wish we had Aura for Salah. It gives you like a Salah score. Imagine you like that's a 12 out of 100 Salah.
So, can you imagine how we invented the light bulb, not realizing how messed up we're going to be in 100 years,
Yeah.
right? Because the light bulb in the beginning, all right, we could shut it off, but now when we have this in devices, right, feeding
Yeah.
us so much interesting information nonstop and experience, or I can't even say experiences on the phone, but things that people like to look at, but it's killing us, and we don't really literally have to put in some effort just to have a normal night's rest, right?
It's
And
like
people,
you started with. You said, we're eating artificial foods and we have artificial lights and
everything's fake.
artificial friendships and
Yep,
everything is,
everything's
artificial
terrible.
AI relationships now. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's growing more artificial. I mean,
yeah,
who knows what's going to happen when we're in VR land?
Terrible.
It's
Yeah.
it's
Their
so okay.
kids are
So
gonna be so messed up.
inshallah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's may Allah protect them.
I mean,
So sleep is number three. What's number
okay,
four in
so
the
we are with Ahmad Fahmy, famed and renowned fitness expert in the Islamic community. His organization is 114, and you could check that out.
114.1?
Huh?
Yes, 114.1.
114.1. All right. So
Yes.
the fourth thing that I talked about was getting rid of all the needless calories from junk,
Yeah,
sugary
yeah,
foods, and
yeah,
sodas. And essentially, what I said was that it's the avoid disaster diet. That means you're in a disaster mode. You're
yeah,
very overweight. This will just by removing that junk, you'll be overweight, not very overweight, right? Because it's not meant to make you perfect. It's just avoid disaster. But if you
yeah,
avoid disaster in the 7 areas that I'm talking about, if you avoid disaster just 10% in each, that's a 70% overall, right? So this part of it has to do with just throwing that stuff literally in the garbage, right?
yeah,
And not believing it's a waste. Yeah, you wasted your money, but better to throw that stuff in the garbage. You lose your money only rather than your money and your health.
yeah,
And bottles of soda, all those things, only on exceptions, right? There's should be only consumed on exceptions. Otherwise, you empty it down the drain or down the toilet.
yeah,
It'll be better use as Drano than in your body.
yeah.
So tell us about the criticalness of going into your cabinet and cleaning house.
Well, the first thing I'd say about that is, of course, I agree, but the person first has to understand or really think introspectively and really consider why are they eating those foods? Is
Yeah.
it to feel better? And there's a psychological component to eating a lot of these things. That's not just I want soda. Sometimes I just want to feel better. And so that's probably the first thing is to understand the nature of your relationship with food. I'm
Yeah.
not adverse to eating a cheeseburger from time to. I love cheeseburgers, and I'm not adverse to eating. I follow like a 80-20 diet or a 90-10 diet where it's 90% very clean,
Yep.
10% whatever I want or what my kids want to eat. If they want to have fried chicken one day, it's just not a normal thing for me. But I have a rule.
Yeah.
I don't eat crap when I feel like crap.
That's good.
That's like a guiding principle.
That's a
I
good
don't
rule.
sit, yeah, I don't eat crap when I feel like crap, you
That's really
know?
good.
And so when you're medicating with food, that's the first thing you kind of have to wake up to, like, oh, I'm actually medicating with food.
You're
Because
assuaging a depression or
yes,
sadness with food.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
that's
something
that's what it is.
yeah, you feel bad and we are wired to avoid feeling bad and
Yep.
we're Muslims and one of the only things we have access to is food. We
You're
can't
not
we don't
drinking.
have the yeah, we don't have the other stuff.
Yeah.
We have food.
Yeah.
And that's why when you go to like the Arab countries, food's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's food, like
That's what I thought. I went to those countries when I was young, and I said, "I've been told you grow up poor, right? There's food everywhere, and everyone's overweight, right?" I was been
everyone's
told,
overweight.
I've been raised on, in this country they this. If they had this in this country, they'd be so lucky. I get there, everyone's overweight, and we're eating 5 times a day, right?
I mean, yeah, exactly. And so
Aren't you
like
guys
you have
poor?
to well you have to first understand the
Yeah,
relationship with food and so sometimes it's really the avoidance of feeling bad
that's really so true. Yeah,
yeah, like I have really stressed today, I don't feel good for whatever reason, work is whatever, let me just go to 7-Eleven and grab some X,
yeah.
enjoy. I just want to feel good. And so that's the first thing I'll say. Is having that honest conversation with yourself and
Yeah.
having some rules. But yeah, useless calories, you know, whether it's soda, like sodas are the easy one to,
To get rid of.
yeah, drinking your calories is exactly right. That's the first thing you should not be doing. You should
Yeah.
not be drinking your calories.
Yeah.
Uh, but here's the thing, whether sleep or cutting out the sugar, because sugar, there is there's uh, I was just listening to a podcast recently where there was a study on rats that sugar was more addictive than cocaine to rats.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so it's not like if you throw away all the sugar uh, from your cabinets right now,
Yeah.
which is probably the right thing to do,
Hmm.
and you just realize you're going to go through sugar withdrawal.
Wow.
Like so you're gonna have a trigger. Something's gonna stress you out, and if you don't drink and smoke and all of these things, and you can't turn to those things,
Yeah.
uh, then your body's gonna be like, "Where's my fix? Where's my
Yeah.
sugar?" You will eat, and if you will find yourself going to your local whatever to get,
Yeah.
or you don't actually in America you don't have to go anywhere. It comes to you now, but and so yeah, so recognize that a lot of the things that you're suggesting, they're gonna take a week or two or three
It
to go
takes a
through that
while.
pain.
And
Yeah, it takes a
and
while.
because this is avoid disaster, we didn't even get into breads and pastas, right? We didn't
Okay,
even
all
touch
right.
that. We're just on Skittles, these things like for no reason. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
this is not a party. It's not a day of celebration of anything. It's not a unique event in the month or the day or the year, right?
Yeah,
It's just on the daily. That stuff should not be. And the best thing is honestly when you walk into your cabinet, like you said, you had a bad day, and it's the end of the day, and you want to just feel better. You walk into your fridge, you open it. There's nothing. There's no junk there. You open up the cabinet, pantry. There's no junk there. That's the best solution, right?
what you're describing is creating friction to the bad habit,
Yeah.
right? You're actually by design creating friction. You're making it's fine. I'll have a fruit or a
Yeah,
banana
exactly. That's
because
what it is. It's fine.
yeah,
I'll eat some oranges or whatever, right?
exactly. So if you create friction
Yeah.
from the bad habit and remove friction, so if you're like there's no Skittles, but fine, there's some almonds or macadamia nuts.
Yeah,
I'll eat those.
exactly.
I'll eat those instead. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, what you're describing is like creating friction. Same thing
Hmm.
with like putting on the Mac, putting limits to how much you can use Twitter every day, and
Exactly.
then all of a
Yeah.
sudden it's 15 minutes pop up. You're just creating friction.
Yeah. So that's the element of junk, and that food is there's some of them honestly should be illegal. These 7-Eleven, the big gulps are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's just sugar water basically,
It's
and
horrible.
additives and junk. This stuff should be literally be illegal. They went on us for the plastic bags in the state of New Jersey, and they disallowed, right? Businesses using plastic bags. So you go to shop right now, you have to bring your own cloth bag with you or your own bag with you, right? Or buy a cloth bag from them. So they bothered us with that. Why don't you actually take out what's ruining the humans, which is these literally drinking sugar? And the truckers, their health is the worst. A guy told me
Yeah.
they get it for free. The drink is for free when they go to these waste stations, and it's because they're driving like 6 hour stretch. The soda is bigger than the regular big gulp, and then he said it's got a straw that's like 1 foot long, so that he could have it. Uh, and it's just the straw sitting there, right? So he's like one of these mice in an experiment, back and forth to the straw.
Well, that's
Right?
exactly what he is. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and by the way, they're not even drinking sugar. They're drinking high fructose corn syrup, right? And yeah, it even sugar. They're
Yeah.
drinking something far worse that your
Yeah.
body's even confused by. It's really, really sad.
They're sitting all day. It's so bad for them, right? All right.
Okay, take me
Number
to the
4.
next one. All right.
Number 4, it has to do with now the superficial element of our bodies, which may suffer irritations, dryness, and other things that is not even close probably to the health agitation, but it seems to be something we need because we shower in the modern times far more than people ever used to take a ghusl. And when they took a ghusl, they poured a cup of water on their head. Today, we have a force of pressure coming on our face and head every single day, which could result in the skin, basically, is an organ, and you totally abusing it with an excess of hot water pushing hard. And so therefore, you have to oil your body, your skin, your face, your head, your arms, your knees. If you make sujood and you have like really, really bad, like if a certain bone, your structure, and you're always hitting that bone, that skin there is like white. It's dead. It's been dead, right, for ages. So it needs olive oil or coconut oil, the miracle of olive oil. Olive oil solves so many irritation problems. It literally is a miracle. I believe olive oil is one of the greatest gifts Allah's given the earth. Some people even say drink a spoon of olive oil every day. Some people say swish it around your mouth. It soaks toxins out and then spit it out. You tell me if that stuff is real. But the fourth one I put is that your skin has huquq, and we abuse our skin with the amount of hot water barrage that it gets, and our hair too. So coconut oil, olive oil, daily. Just a little bit of douse, boop, 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 and it makes you feel better. It makes you feel easier to you don't feel the dryness.
Yeah, I mean, I could not agree more. And now I'm older than you, so I have to worry about this stuff more. And so, I'm not going to tell you what I do because people make fun of me.
Yeah.
But my cousin put me on some protocol that I've been following.
I always go ahead, finish your thought.
Yeah, but I do. Like, by the way, I only put shampoo and conditioner in my hair once a week. Like, I wash my hair every day.
With water?
With water.
Okay.
But I only use shampoo and conditioner on Friday because, like you said, like we're stripping our natural oils and all of that kind of stuff, and the hair gets brittle. And so I completely agree on that. And I do moisturize and things like that. But just to maintain my, the bro code, I'm not going to tell you how much I moisturize.
Yeah. So this is how I looked at it, is that through the study of fiqh, I thought to myself, we wake up maybe 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock a.m., 6 a.m., and guys got to take a ghusl, or we take ghusls all the time. But I'm thinking to myself, back in those days, how they actually did it in the middle? How did they take a ghusl that early? The water was cold. It must have been like a miserable experience. Take a ghusl at that hour when the water wasn't warm. So that got me to thinking, because Muslims, if you study your religion, you're always going to be connected to the past. And hence you're going to wonder, how are things different between the present and the past, right?
Yeah.
I think to myself, our ghusls, our showers, this is like an abuse of the skin. And that's what got me to the need for, but my thing is this. The bottle you use should have one word on it. The word ingredient should be followed by one word, not a paragraph. If it's a paragraph, I personally think you're probably getting scammed, right?
Well, that's the same thing for food itself. It should have one ingredient.
Yeah, one ingredient,
what
and it should not be in a plastic wrapper, right?
Yeah. Especially if you're a man or a boy, you should avoid plastic at all costs.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole nother subject. The plastic getting into it.
Yeah.
So the skin part is it's easy, right? Just some olive oil, some whatchamacallit. Yeah.
Same for the hair. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's good for a person. Now the fifth one, spiritual health.
Okay.
Now, spiritual health, remember, this is avoid disaster. This is someone who is lazy. This is a person who is on basically as a train wreck. So my solution for that, where's my misbah? I left it downstairs in my jacket pocket. But it's take the misbah with a counter of 10 and go through anything. Recite any dhikr at any time 10 times. Go around the 100 misbah 10 times. That will be 1,000 dhikrs of whatever you're doing. Because we had to go to the easiest, but you have to get a decent number, right? And that was the number 5, the spiritual element of things, which was the to do dhikr on the misbah nonstop, to have that misbah with you at least 1,000 in the day. So go through that 100 10 times. That's so easy, right? And over time, that should remove a lot of the gunk, of the sins and the ghafla and the darkness that's in a person's heart, right? Just like if you were to pour Drano down your drain, a tablespoon a day, right? Eventually that Drano will unclog whatever it is that's clogging there. And so that was number 5. Number 6. What was number 6 we said? You remember, Omar?
Sleep. I don't think you went this deep last time.
No, we did. He just posted it. We said number 1 was sleep, water, sugars,
Stretching.
oil, stretching, dhikr. So dhikr was 6. Number 7, socialization. Socialization it's so important. So human beings need other humans. So I said, like with your family, that you keep your family intact by having dinner together, right?
Yeah.
But people also need people outside their family, and the family needs that too. Families can get weird, right? If they don't socialize, they get weird because they develop these dynamics within them that are so bizarre, right? That there's no check on them. So usually the kid who goes to school, he's like, oh my gosh, my family is so weird, right? Because he's comparing. He's comparing 100 other kids, right? And that may explode when the kid's like 25, right? If there's an imbalance there. So everyone needs to socialize in some way, shape, and form. And for us, the bare bones is to go for Aisha in the masjid. That's how you socialize, right? That's how you meet other people. That's how you see what the norm is and how people are behaving, right? So socialization, what's a good metric for that? Socialization.
I think it's there's so many dimensions to it. Let me just break down how I think of socialization. So, or at least how I do it and I think of it. So within the family, there is time when the husband and wife need to be alone.
Yep.
I mean,
that's a good way.
Spend time alone together, date night, whatever you want to call it. Just reconnect, because marriages can very easily become transactional.
100%.
You know, kids, elderly parents, and it can be just like a business relationship. You know, like and it's just all transactional. And then at night, you'll maybe watch some Netflix and go to sleep. You know, it's just. And so I think that's a really critical part of socialization. I think there is, like you said, as a family eating dinner, but I also believe very deeply in spending one-on-one time with each of the children. Now, the way I game this is I take them to things I want to do. Like I'm not taking them to see some Pixar movie because I hate watching Pixar movies. And so, for example, I'm constantly like I work in a cafe down the street from my house in Uskudar. That's something my daughter loves to come with me and do. If I run, and my son will come and bike next to me, so I have activities that I'll do with each of my children.
So because you're enjoying themselves, they'll
exactly
enjoy it too.
It's because if I go take them to something they want to do and I'm on my phone, and you know, because I don't care what happened to Bambi or whatever, and, you know,
exactly.
They're not enjoying it either, and so
that's true.
That's
and
how
they're
I
more
kind
flexible than the older.
Exactly, and they see I'm engaged, and so that for my daughter, for example, is what's happening here, and I'm explaining to her what's happening at work, and sometimes, like the other day, she's learning Russian, and she was asking me, you know, if I can write her some sort of program to help her learn Russian, and we spent 2 hours writing a program. And so I think that element of socialization within the family is really important. You know, father, son, you know, father, wife, and then with other families. One thing that my wife and I are always thinking about is which families are we having suhbah with? Like who are we inviting over, and who are we going to invite? And we're lucky here in Istanbul that there's a lot of amazing expat families that live here. But we're constantly, and I feel like this is atrophied from our parents' generation, the constant uzumas. Like your parents, my parents always had uzumas all the time.
All the time.
Now it's not so much. It's not so much. And so that's really important. But then, so families are with families. But then here's something that I think is really important, is men hanging out with men and women hanging out with women.
Yeah.
Like sometimes people will say, oh, like my wife's my best friend. That's good. Like, you know, you should be close with your wife. You know, she's your partner for life and all those things. But no, you need man friends. You know, you need man friends to want man things. And you know,
that's why podcasts are going through the roof. It's because it has become that.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
guys used to just sit around in their
Exactly.
basement or something. Now it's a podcast.
And it's important, that my wife hangs out with her friends.
Yeah.
And I hang out with my friends. So and so that's so to me, yes, socialization is like we're atrophying on all of those dimensions that
Yeah,
I described,
yeah.
whether within the family, outside of the family. So I really love this tenet of the
Yeah.
avoid disaster diet.
I think it's
I
important
really believe in
because
that. Yeah.
because when you're only with the same age group, that's a huge problem because
Yeah.
well, I see guys who hit like say 25. They're out of college, but they're doing some extra studies or whatever. At that time, they're cut off. They're not going with their parents anymore.
Yeah.
They're also not getting invited to the married folk stuff.
Yeah.
So they're really in a bubble from 25. And if this continues into 35, sometimes they're like so off
Yeah.
that you wonder, like, because you're so off from, you may be good at what you're focusing on, but other than that, you're off, right? You need to they need to be reintegrated in society, because when you're mixing up ages, that's when you get the fullest picture of quote unquote life. Like when there is somebody who's in their 90s over there about to go into the barzakh, they have a perspective on life. In the same households or in the same, visit, there's someone who's literally just 4 years old, 3 years old, and their perspective on life is the opposite end. Then you got all the people in the middle. That's the healthy perspective, right? And to hyper focus only on being with your own age group is one of the worst things you could do, right? Because it tweaks your perspective is way off, and these people get highly emotional about things that nobody else would. It's because you're skewed, right? You're skewed. You're way off. So that's where socialization is another part of important thing, is how do people meet other people to get into the other parts of life that they're trying to. So whether it's a guy who he needs more money, socialization is what's going to open the doors for you. A guy who wants to marry, a guy who has a daughter who needs to get married, right? How does he put the signals out, right?
Exactly.
That now is not the time to propose. Now is the time to propose. He puts those feelers, the signals out at these dinner invitations. And dinner invitations is something that I think that, first of all, it's part of the religion too. There is a Sahabi, he said, to have a walima and invite my companions to dinner, the Sahabi said, is better for me than to spend the whole day in the masjid. Right? Because there's manafa, there's benefits. It's not just that sadaqah. Everyone's benefiting from this meeting. And you need a door open for you, he can do that. I need a door open for me, I know he could do that. Right? And so there's all sorts of stuff going on. So people who don't do that, and they ask me, and not to make fun of people, but someone came up to me and they said, like, I always feel a bit off from people. I don't get along with anyone. I was like, yeah, you have weird traits. You have quirky traits, right? And the way to increase those quirky traits is to stay alone the way you are now. But the way to shave them off one by one, little by little, it may be a rough road. Like calluses on her feet or on their feet, right? Is to mix with people. Because you're going to say something that's going to be off. Everyone's going to stay silent. You're going to learn. That's learning, right? You have to absorb that. You just learned. That's why school is important, because kids don't hold back. They just tell you that was ridiculous, right?
Exactly.
And your guy friends are also like that too. Shiyukh who don't have guy friends, they're off.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, you can't hang out with these guys. He's a king all the time. The shiyukh who have guy friends, they're better communicators. Yeah. Because their guy friend, he doesn't like hanging out with a sheikh at this moment. He's hanging out with you. He says, that was ridiculous, right? Right? They'll just tell you. That's why you have to have guy friends. You have to have these invitations where people will signal to you that you are off the beaten trodden path of human communication and behavior and speech. So those manafa, when people don't have them, they just become odder and odder and odder. and it hurts them because they can never mingle with people anymore.
And this is so
Yeah.
profound, so true. And so, again, goes back to the first thing that you said, synthetic food, synthetic relationships. Like, it's
Yeah.
easy to have sohbah on WhatsApp.
It's
It's
fake.
easy. WhatsApp is easy. It's yeah,
Yeah.
hey, bro, I pray you're
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
but in each other's face, having azayim, stumbling on your words, maybe offending somebody, apologizing. That's all we're atrophying as an entire community. And again, I worry about our children.
Yeah.
But we can do things. We can have people over. We can reinstitute the traditions of our parents. Ramadan was non-stop azaim in my house.
Yeah.
Non-stop azaim, going, coming, seeing people, going to the masjid.
Every weekend.
Every week.
There's so there's funerals, there's weddings, someone's doing something. Now, if you want to know how do I start, well, you go to your local masjid and participate and do something for like 5 seconds. Fix a bookshelf, right? You'll meet people. Fix a bookshelf, right? Do something. Attend a janazah. Say congratulations to the person who got married. Right? Just walk away. What's going to happen is you're going to make your number of acquaintances will increase. The acquaintance is someone, I just know who you are, right?
Exactly.
Give it a year. If you keep massaging that and growing your acquaintances, one of these days, if you're shy, someone will invite you to something.
Yeah.
And if you're outgoing, right, it's a faster route. You'll invite them to something. And here's the beauty of it. When you invite, when you get invited, you have to reciprocate. The next time around, you have to invite them, right? If you're always invited, you'll be out of the friend group real fast, right? Like, when are you reciprocating? You got to reciprocate, right?
Yeah.
So now you cook some food. These days, people just buy the food. But you sit down, you invite them to eat, and you sit and talk about things that everyone agrees on. I used to know somebody in the friend circle of the Ammus. He used to bring up all the controversial subjects and have fights at these dinner gatherings, right?
Yeah.
But you also got to see a full-fledged adult go from being off to actually, he's constantly at a fork in the road. Do I want these friends, or do I want to drive this point? And he had to be at that fork in the road. That's like shaving off your bad qualities. He chose his friends every single time. Now he's totally normal, right? And he knows how to interact. And that's what socialization is, and that's how your family will benefit. Before this, I've heard people say, I don't care how good this guy's son is. We're never marrying into this family. Oh, the guy's crazy, right? They say this all the time, right? So that was the 7th part of the avoid disaster diet. All right, would you like to? You want to take us now to the next level?
I honestly, I think that with what I just heard, because this is not a diet. This is
like a life.
Yeah, this is a whole lifestyle here. Yeah, I mean, this is the Shadee Elmasry lifestyle.
Yeah.
I can't wait to have my $60 Shadee. Branded.
Yeah.
I wouldn't add to that, because if I look at the thread that goes through everything you said, it's just going back to what worked.
Yeah.
It's just going back to what worked.
And trying to reduce it to one element too.
Yeah, it's just going back, whether it's single ingredient things or sleep or just drinking water, avoiding synthetic foods or synthetic relationships and having real sohbah. It's just going back. It's like, you heard about the paleo diet.
Someone just asked about one of these
diets. If you heard about the paleo diet, for example, what you're describing is almost like, not to steal from my brother, but like prophetic living. This is how they lived.
Yeah.
It's and it's just going back to that, to the roots of that in many dimensions. Well, taking time for spirituality and dhikr. And people say, oh, 1,000 times, that's gonna probably take me like 6, 7 minutes. That's a lot of times. 1,000, that's nothing. That's one
That's not
YouTube. That's two YouTube shorts.
hundred
It's
percent,
like it's two
100%.
YouTube shorts. It's just
Most
all
people
mental
spend
stuff.
more time in the bathroom on their phone than they
Exactly.
do
And
the.
so I think I don't want to add because I don't want to. I just if somebody was to adopt some of those 7 things in their lives,
Yeah.
uh, and now if I was to prioritize them,
Yeah. Give us the order. I'm gonna write
I
this
would
down.
probably
Actually.
I would probably say sleep number 1, then sohbah number 2. Above all else, sohbah is so critical,
It's so critical.
and being in Istanbul, surrounded by a community of people who are all walking distance. It's like 50 families or 30, I don't want to exaggerate, 30 to 40 walking distance, amazing families, has shown me how little I interacted before that. I was just in my job, in my work, come home, see my family, go to sleep, rinse and repeat. And Sohba is so important for the mental health, having male friends. We have Muay Thai, we have a Dagestani teacher that teaches Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu on the weekends, and it's men and young men there,
Ajib.
everything you said, saying, the things that you're going to say to other men, making fun of each other.
Yeah.
And so I'd probably put that as second above, the other things. I'd probably put hydration third, just because when you're dehydrated, when you're chronically dehydrated, it kind of throws everything off. And you're even hungry. When you're dehydrated, you're hungry. You're hungrier. You're
Ajib.
less
I didn't know that.
You're less satiated. You're actually hungry. If you were to, sometimes at night, you're like, I'm really hungry, and you start eating stuff. If you just drink a big glass of water, you're gonna be okay. Then I'd probably the skincare before the calories, because the you you, you can maintain kind of your skin.
Yeah.
You can't. Despite what they tell you in the ads, it's very hard to rejuvenate your skin. And so I'd probably focus on that, then maybe calories. I don't know, one or the other. Oh, wait, dhikr. I'm sorry. Dhikr, I'd probably... would I put that above sohbah? Maybe on par with sohbah.
Yeah. Number 3.
Yeah. What did I miss from the...
Now you have sugars. Getting rid of these sugars.
Yeah. I'd probably put that on
Calories.
the skin.
Yeah.
I'd probably put that on the skin. Did I miss anything else in your...
Yeah. There's one more, which is stretching.
Ooh.
See how critical each one of each one
I'm
of
saying,
these.
You've created... Yeah, this is... you should trademark this, man. It's...
Each one of these is a result of a disaster. I'm telling you,
It's a disaster.
right?
Well, there's one thing, yeah. I mean, you should say that these are Shadee's disasters, and you.
That's what it is. Yeah.
And
Make people feel really
sorry,
good.
Sheikh Shadee. What you should do is, what you should do is, like, if you have a disaster in your life,
Yeah.
you should also take the steps to correct it.
Yeah.
It's. But this is a very, very solid list. It's not just about diets and things like that. But before I kind of introduce anything else, you had mentioned, are there any questions that we should be answering, or does that not how this works?
There are questions here. I do have a bonus round of things that I didn't add, honorable mentions that I didn't add that I do think are very important.
Sure.
One of them is pretty gross, though. I don't like to say it, but it really helps a lot of people. So honorable mentions now. Right. And by the way, we're opening up to questions now for our esteemed guest, fitness expert, better than Goggins and all these other people. We're with Ahmad Fahmy. His website is here, 114.1. He runs a whole bunch of races that engage the Quran and physical fitness. Running.
Yes.
All right. So honorable mentions. People walk around imagine walking around every day. You have to have a 5-pound fanny pack on.
Yeah.
Not comfortable. People walking around with that inside of themselves, and if they get bloated very easily, they generally feel miserable. And the reason is the modern toilet is no good. It is leaving gunk in your body to rot. And you're walking around with that stuff. In the old days, you have a sponge. How do you get rid of a sponge? You don't get rid of a sponge by flicking it. Get water out of a sponge by flicking it, right? You squeeze it. And the human being is meant to be squeezed. And you will just, all of the bowel medicines and things that people sell and buy and sell at CVS is useless. All you need, it really combines with the water and the squatting, right? And that's why I don't like to mention it, but it is for the menfa of people, for the benefit of people. You need to be squeezed. If you are squeezed once a day, you're going to have no problems, right? If you're squeezed and you drink that much water every day, you will remove so much disease. Disease starts in the intestines. And the Prophet ﷺ said the foundation of disease is the stomach. And modern science tells us the foundation of disease is the intestines, right? So much disease. You have something to say, Omar?
I'm the Shahid for this. So you mentioned this like 6 months back or something.
Yep.
And I started implementing it. So
Yeah.
I constantly, this is all I do. I do this
Constantly.
squat thing.
So you
and I can attest to this.
Yeah.
It works.
It may hurt your ankles a little bit, and you don't do it on the seat, right? Because you'll just break the seat. But that's why I don't want to talk about it, because it's gross, but it's very beneficial.
I'm the Shahid. Like, I've tried it, and I'll tell you guys.
It works. We humans are meant to be squeezed. All right, go ahead. Tell us. What's your commentary on that?
So I have this stool that raises your
knees.
Your knees up.
Yeah, but it doesn't. Is that enough pressure?
It's not the same.
It's not the same.
But
you got all your weight. Boom.
I know, but we just we don't have the infrastructure in my apartment to do what you recommend. I could go to all the mosques in Istanbul have that, so I could.
No, it can be done on a regular toilet, right?
But if you can't you break the whole seat?
It depends how big you are. Right?
Yeah,
are you that strong?
I don't know. I can visualize what you're talking about.
It depends how big the guy is, but you could definitely break the seat, but not the whole thing. You know, the plastic seat on it is not meant to withstand that. Those little joints at the
I understand what you're saying.
Back are not meant for that. But I'm telling you, it's honorable mention, because I don't want to be associated with this subject, right? But it is an honorable mention, right? And then the other honorable mention, somebody said, finances is a big part of life, ruins people's life, but I don't yet have anything to say about that. I can say something, but I don't want to clog our beautiful avoid disaster diet program here.
I think this is kind of becoming not just a diet, but like, again, a whole way of living, and finance is obviously an important part, and the easiest way to make a lot more money is just to spend less money.
Less money,
and that's just the quickest way, and live well beyond your means. And that's, for example, a big part of why I live in Turkey. It's just so much cheaper.
That's crazy.
It's so much cheaper to live here than in the U.S.
Tell us about here. Sheikh Hussein Abdusattar says, in years to come, we will look at sugar and cell phones the way people look at cigarettes. I totally agree with that. This is McCurry Swag says this. Right. All right. What else would you like to ask? That we're opening up the Q&A here. Again, people are asking about this water. A lot of people did not know that water needs something in it, and people are now asking, what about tap water? Is it reverse? Is it bad for you? So tell us a little bit. Maybe we should be a bit educated on the water. Not all water is the same.
Yeah, I don't know, because I live in Turkey. I don't know what the tap water situation here is versus the U.S. and fluorides and things like that. But we have in my house, my apartment here, we filter all of the water that comes into the apartment, and then we have a separate filter for the drinking water. So it gets filtered twice, and then um, uh, we put, like I said, I put in Celtic salt, which
Very
is a
good.
high mineral salt. You can get it from, you can get a big bag from Amazon. Uh, One thing I should mention also is, in terms of water quality, it's worth actually checking the air quality in your children's rooms.
Ajib.
You never know in terms of mold and things like that. Like, it turns out my son was really suffering from that, and we got
Ajib.
some very cheap, like Huawei air purifiers, and put it in some of the bedrooms.
Very interesting.
Yeah, so that's just
No, his kids are moldy. They've got under their beds fries from
Yeah.
like 10 years ago and stuff like that. Yeah.
exactly.
We've kept you till 11 o'clock. This is going to ruin your next day.
Yeah,
we have to.
exactly.
We're going to
I'm
log
have-
you
I'm
off
gonna
right
have really
now.
bad HRV because of you.
You're going exactly. I didn't realize the time in Turkey was that far ahead of us. So thank you so much for coming on.
No, it's always a pleasure
And
to see you.
inshallah ta'ala, we'll do it again bi'idhnillahi ta'ala.
Allah barik
And
fiik.
in
It's
Turkey,
good to see you.
because I'm going to announce very soon to everybody, as soon as the applications are up, my last 2 week of July in Turkey, inshallah ta'ala. So we'll announce that later.
So are you going to be here doing the nothing but, are you going to be doing your podcast
I'll do it
here?
right with you,
And
right
with
there.
the lighting and everything.
Yeah, everything.
All right. Allah
All right.
barik fiik.
Jazakumullah
All right,
khair.
assalamu
Thanks a
alaikum.
lot for coming on.
No, my pleasure. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. We have a few minutes for Q&A. Here, look at this one. Mu'in ad-Dugla says, some people say we should have opposite gender friends too, or we become misogynistic. So I think the solution to that is to just be with your female friends in your family, because we're not allowed to look at another woman without a reason. And friendship is not a reason for that. So we're not going to have friends from the opposite gender. That's just how it is. But you will have, don't you have a mom? Don't you have a sister? Maybe. But you definitely have a mom. Don't you have a wife, possibly? So that's where, and by the way, your other friends have moms and wives and sisters. If you have 10 friends, right? Some of those guys spend a lot of time with their mom and sister. And they'll balance out the guys who don't have that, right? Okay. Luqman Rashid says, ask those weirdos if they're okay with men befriending their sisters. Okay, so basically he's saying, all right, give me your sister so I can befriend her. See how does that sound, right? Sounds terrible. But that's our culture. And when I say culture, I mean everyday living. Doesn't mean it's divorced from tashri'ah, right? No, that's no good. I told the brothers to go through these and delete the bad ones. No, I'll tell you which one to do. Go down. No. Keep going down. Oh, up. You could do the one on the left. Maybe you could do that one. That's fine, I guess. Any beneficial herbs or herbs, how they're properly pronounced. Beneficial herbs, I don't know anything about herbs. I can tell you that, no, I don't know anything about in terms of benefit. The greatest herb, it's actually a weed, right? Isn't mint a weed? Mint is actually a weed. Yeah, that's a weed. But it's the best. It's the greatest weed of all time. Is mint, of course. Mint is the greatest weed of all time. There's no doubt about that. You put it in your tea. You put it in everything. It's the best. Keep going up. Not that up. Yeah, that up that's good. Herbs. It was the.
You know what's funny? It's episode 420.
It's episode 420. Wow. Yeah, mint. I mean, how many people like? How much is mint used in everyday life, especially for us in tea and everything? We love mint. And in the other part of the world, it's the cardamom pods. They're so cheap, yet they're so critical to have in your chai. Today was all about this stuff, this physical health. I'm telling you, if you get your physical body in order, it's going to help a lot. And your spiritual body and your social body. It's all mixed, right? You got to pick up the misbah. Got to pick up the misbah. You got to have friends. You got to sleep right. Don't think Shaitan is not cutting through us through this. I believe he is. Like, people staying up late. They never remember Allah. Their sleep is out of whack. They're eating junk, sugar that feeds their shahawat. Then they have miserable nights, physically and spiritually, filled with sins and garbage. Then they wake up the next day and they can't do anything, right? They can't do anything. And they're miserable. And they're depressed. And this is compounds. Day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, and it compounds. And then eventually, at some point, your life is out of your hands almost. Like you're behind in so many things. You're behind in education. You're behind in finances. You're behind in everything, right? Mint lowers testosterone, does it? Population in Morocco is doing just fine, right? I mean, maybe he's right, but is that lowering of testosterone by Layth, is it to the point that is dangerous? Last I checked, Morocco population is booming. No one has more mint than them. How's that for a scientific analysis of the comment? No, Laith, I believe you. I mean, just tell us more about this. Yeah, they're just putting it in the tea. They don't eat it. Here's a question. How do I go from a pessimistic attitude to an optimistic one? So you start to monitor your thoughts and your feelings. You should know that pessimistic beliefs. And when I say beliefs, I'm saying beliefs that things that are not based in fact. It's just your belief. I'm not saying aqidah beliefs here. Just beliefs. A pessimistic belief, it makes you depressed. Makes you down. Even 1% down, 10% down. Well, what does that do? Why is that so bad? It's so bad because it causes inaction, right? Inaction. Why did Ibn al-Qayyim say that sadness is a trick of Iblis? He says because he loves it because it makes good people stop acting. You don't do anything. So you got to monitor that. And you got to say to yourself the opposite. And take this as a medicine. Just tell yourself everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be great. Fine is not even a big deal. But you start with that. Then everything's going to be good. Everything's going to be really good. Everything is going to be amazing. You will find yourself now, your heart beats differently, you're breathing differently, and you're full of energy. You take that energy and you put it into the problem. You work at the problem. But you got to have a good attitude towards the problem. You got to you have to brainwash yourself. You're literally rewiring and washing yourself. You got to tell everything is going to be amazing. Things are going to be great, right? Then what happens? You feel better, so you act better, right? You be bold in your actions, right? What do you recommend? Saying Bismillah in your heart or out loud in wudu? It can be lightly said in your tongue, no problem. You got to rename the stream. Yeah. I guess you say live better, the Avoid Disaster Diet Plan, commentary by Ahmad Fahmy. I mean, we got sharh from the top, right? This is almost like a mufti giving commentary on a children's metin. Now, he's a mufti in health. No doubt about that. You could take his fatwa and run. Go ahead.
To live in a state of fear of hardships coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
La haram. That's su'u dhann billah. Hada su'u dhann billah. Yeah, that's a bad opinion of Allah. If the hardships go up 1, the blessings will go up 10, and the protection will go up 100. Right? Anytime someone says, oh, but being more pious brings more tribulations. Yeah, but it also brings more protection. It also brings more happiness. Like that. Here's Bilal says, the study that mint lowers it was found in women, not testing men. So I'm not sure how it can be applied to guys. All right. Office Butterfly, what about grooming and hygiene to the diet? You know what grooming and hygiene? We take that just from the Sunnah. The fitrah, the 5 things the Prophet ﷺ said, these things should be done. Well, they're not 5 because you're only doing one of them once in your life, which is the male circumcision. But the Prophet ﷺ used to trim his mustache. You know, we always talk about how Malik loathes shaving the mustache. He said someone who does this, he should be hit and feel pain because he's deforming himself, right? None of the people in Malik's time, he would never have said that if a single sheikh in his time shaved his mustache. So he didn't shave the mustache. He trimmed the mustache, clip your nails, and then remove the hair from under the arms and between the legs. The Prophet ﷺ used to do this, and it's a sunnah to do it, we can say a tradition that this is done Thursday night or Friday morning before Jummah. Thursday night or Friday morning. And of course, ghusl too. Right? So that's really the hygiene, the basic hygiene of a Muslim should be like that. Grooming. You do all, and you're going to add stuff to that. Like, you're not just going to trim your mustache. You might as well clean your whole appearance. At least once a week. Right? At least once a week. Atiq al-Rahman says, so women should drink more mint. This is becoming, the Q&A is becoming on who should drink more mint and who gets better testosterone or less. Flossie B, what's your advice on resisting temptations? Food increases shahwa. Sugary foods is from experience. It increases you to be hyperactive. If you look at children's programs in schools where the kids act up, one of the experiments that they implemented was that they gave the kids healthy lunches, and they took away from the kids the sugary foods. So pizza and Skittles and soda and Snapple out. Cucumbers and broccoli and all the bad stuff that kids don't like to eat, but they try to make it good, like chicken, stuff like that, rice, in. The behavior changed right away. So it's that, and then it's the hook. There's always a trigger for fasad. Fasad just doesn't come down from the sky. There's something. There's a device, a person, a part of town, stuff like that. You cut off that trigger. Social media is terrible. Social media is terrible. Yeah. What about, he says, Imam Malik also says that the believer eats twice a day. So if you want to add this as an honorable mention, I love these like simple rules. He says, because the Quran says, وَلَهُمْ فِيهَا رِزْقُهُمْ بُكْرَةً وَعَشِيًّا. Right? In Jannah, they have their food morning and evening. Right? So he just said that applies for us now too. Right? So he said, you should eat twice a day. If you only ate twice a day, as a rule, and you didn't have snacks nonstop, nor 3 meals a day, you would never feel so hungry, and your calorie intake would be good if you followed that counsel from Imam Malik. Luqman Rashid, do you mean a buzz cut mustache? Yeah, he disliked that too. Malik disliked that too. Is it sunnah to shave every week? The shaving of the private parts and under the arms? And in Nawawi expanded the private parts to the whole aura. Why? Because he said that it's where najasa can catch on. So you want where najasa is and needs to be washed, you want those parts smooth from hair. So they didn't say no. They didn't say every week. It could be every week. It could be whenever you want. All right. But it definitely should not have hair there because it catches najasa and it makes cause the najasa to get caught there. All right. We have to go. I got class at 3:30. Jazakumullah khairan, everybody. Thank you all for your comments, your questions, and again, do not forget the Muslims in your dua, particularly those in the West Bank, as the forces are now attacking them and going to get free reign to do that. And that was, of course, the catch of the Gaza ceasefire, is that they're going to go in the West Bank. So Jazakumullah khairan, everyone. Subhanakallah bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Kalbe şiir